But a fair rule of thumb, I think, on these conferences is they always turn out different than you expect. And if you go there, like we all went to Copenhagen, thinking this is a done deal, it's going to be fine, 135 heads of state turn up, you think it's all going to be fine, and it comes to a complete disaster. And then we all go off to Cancun thinking, oh God, we're in another disaster, and the Mexicans are wonderful and it's terrific. We went to Durban thinking not going to be much, it was more than we expected. So what will happen here, I don't quite know, but it'll be different than any of us expect.
Right, what do you expect?
Careful plodding along the road, hopefully. If I say this, it won't happen, will it? Hopefully, agreement on the Kyoto Protocol, second commitment period, so that at least can go ahead and get that issue out of the way, and hopefully some move towards 2015. Now, what would make me happy is if there was, hopefully some move towards beginning to negotiate a treaty by 2015, as is mandated. But what would make me happy is some signs of action before 2015. But what would make me quite happy, I think, is to see that the Qataris coming out for a target and Saudi Arabia moving. But there are some hopeful signs around. I mean, I'm going to jinx the conference if I say this, aren't I? But there's some hopeful signs around. I mean, you look at the three big blocks on progress over the last 3 years. The United States, well, they're going to hit their 17% reduction by 2020, largely because of shale gas. Now, that may be on paper, because as we know, there are big methane emissions from shale gas, so it may not be real. But on paper, they will meet it. And partly by Regulation of the Environment Protection Agency. But that really removes a block of a sort in the United States. And it means that they haven't got a target and they are doing it. It's a big block internationally. The Chinese, who I think one of the big blocks in Copenhagen, but have been much better since, they're moving towards an emissions trading scheme. It started on a pilot basis. By 2015, it will be nationwide. I'm told that the last president, President Hu, a third of his speech was devoted to the environment, his farewell speech. No one reported it, but a third of his speech was. And the new leadership apparently are much greener than the old one. So that's interesting. You look at this part of the world, which as you always know, it's always been this part of the world, there's been a block on progress. Things seem to be moving here. There's a great interest, as you heard tonight, on the solar program here. It's not huge, but there's signs of movement here too. So you begin to see a possibility of something coming together. Now, of course, we all thought that would happen in Copenhagen, and it didn't, so it could easily go wrong. And of course, anything by 2015, 2020 is possibly too late for the world.
I mean, these positive moves, are they in spite of the COP process, the negotiations here? Okay.
No, I don't know. I was going to say I think so, because you can get very disillusioned with them. But I think if this wasn't happening, it wouldn't be happening. It's outside the COP negotiations, which are immensely frustrating. But I think if nothing was going on internationally, then nothing will be happening nationally either. You do have to have this process, much as we all hate it, how frustrated we get. It's the most insane process on the planet. 200 nations coming, talking and going nowhere for 2 weeks. For 2 months they still go nowhere. And the last night, an all-night session where everything hangs on the balance, and it either goes crash or it doesn't, depending on how people are feeling and what they ate and what side of bed they go out in the morning. And hopefully, normally, it just about stays on track. And at times like Copenhagen, it doesn't stay on track. What a mad way to run a planet. But that's what